Hello and welcome to MotorInc First. Today we're discussing a car that is just like the Maruti Suzuki Fronx, but it's not. I'm not going to try and pronounce this car's name because I can't figure it out. The first part is Toyota, the second part is what?
Just call it TT.
Why?
Toyota Taisor.
No, they gave it an Taisor.
Taisor. I mean, you can make it sound whatever you want it to. Yeah.
Does it mean anything?
I have no idea. No interest in all these things.
Oh, really?
What it means and all, what difference does it make? What does it do is the question.
Okay, what does it do?
It drives just like the Fronx. So we're done. This is the Toyota Taisor. If you've driven a Fronx before, done.
Okay. Let's get serious for just 1 second, okay?
Okay.
This is a question that has appeared a few times, so let's answer it right at the beginning.
Okay.
I believe something like 40-45% of Toyota sales today are coming from rebadged Marutis, which basically means that you can buy a Maruti or a Toyota and it's the same car. What's the reason to pick a Maruti? What's the reason to pick a Toyota if you have the same car in front of you? So Baleno, Glanza, Fronx, Taisor. Taisor, right? Yeah, it just makes it easier for me. Okay, don't take this seriously. And then the urban cruiser high rider, which is just one car with that long a name, and the Grand Vitara.
What was the other one? Innova Hi-Cross.
Sorry, Innova Invicto.
Innova Invicto. Baleno.
I said all four.
Baleno, Glanza. Rumion. Did you do Rumion and
sorry, Rumion and Ertiga also.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you have these 6, 8, 10 cars, which are all just name badges aside, why would you pick a Maruti? Why would you pick a Toyota? Pros and cons.
Okay.
If I can format it as 3 reasons to pick Maruti over Toyota and 3 reasons to pick Toyota Maruti, I'll be like,
oh, we can do that. Should I try?
Go for it.
Okay. 3 reasons to pick the Toyota. First, let's do that. That's an easy short list. Because of the Toyota badge. There are people for whom the Toyota badge adds prestige to the car, and it also gives rise to these thoughts that the Toyota car is better than the Maruti car, right? Like for instance, the Glanza is better than the Baleno because it's a Toyota, not realizing that they're made in the same factory by the same set of people and are identical in terms of how they're being made and what they're being made out of. But it gives them room to have that prestige saying that this is a Toyota, so it's better.
Okay.
So that's one reason. Second, some of the Toyotas, like in the case of the Grand Vitara versus the High Rider's strong hybrid engine is the Toyota engine.
Right.
Correct? So Toyota gets to price it lower.
Got it.
And they add an additional variant for that engine, whereas in the Maruti with the Grand Vitara, it's only available in 2 variants. On the High Rider, it's available in 3 variants. So there's more access for some of those things. And you'll see the same story happen with the Taisor as well, but the other way around.
Got it.
So why does it happen that way? It's because that drivetrain, that strong hybrid drivetrain belongs to Toyota.
So they have more flexibility on that front. So when Toyota takes the Rumion, then they have less flexibility than the Ertiga will have. Got it.
So and the Grand Vitara and High Rider are a great example because you can see it working both ways.
Right.
So the mild hybrid engine, which comes from Suzuki, that car in the High Rider is more expensive than in the Grand Vitara.
Understood.
And is the other way around for the strong hybrid.
Understood.
Plus, they have an additional variant on the High Rider, so it makes it more accessible by a couple of lakhs also.
Understood.
If you wanted a strong hybrid.
Got it.
So you have more flexibility in terms of options in some cases, in some vehicles, to go for the Toyota.
So when I see a Grand Vitara on the road versus a High Rider on the road, I look at the High Rider and say, cheapskate. Didn't pay money for the Grand Vitara, is it?
Didn't pay money for the Grand Vitara
because he bought the cheaper
for the strong hybrid.
Yeah. So if I see the High Rider hybrid, and I'm like
and that also this is the interesting thing that what they're doing is that at the dealership level. So when you go to a Maruti Suzuki dealership and you'll say, no, the Toyota is cheaper for the strong hybrid, but you'll say the difference is 75,000 rupees. We'll give you accessories.
Oh, sweet.
So they'll sweeten it. So they'll balance it out. They'll find some way to equalize that thing. So it's really interesting how these things work out. So, and it was off the bat when the Grand Vitara High Rider came out. Maruti had this scheme running that what the differential was in terms of price for the strong hybrid would be given in terms of accessories or some extended warranty or whatever,
So on the face of it, there might be a price difference, but in the dealership, they may not actually be.
This gets balanced out some way or the other now, especially now where right now things are running a bit slow.
Got it.
And the third reason is Toyota service experience.
Okay.
Along with that, there's also the warranty factor. The cars are the same, so the fact that the reliability of the two cars will be the same is there.
Yeah.
But Toyota has offered a better warranty.
As standard.
That used to be the case earlier. Now their standard warranties are the same. So it's 3 years, 1 lakh kilometers for Suzuki. Suzuki upped their standard warranty recently.
Okay.
So that is applicable to most of their cars, as far as I know, all of them as a standard warranty.
Okay.
Their extended warranty is better. I mean, the extended warranty in Toyota is better.
Okay.
So they still have that slight advantage. So I think in the Taisor's case, the extended warranty is 5 years, 2,20,000 kilometers.
Okay.
Whereas the Fronx's extended warranty is 6 years, but 1,60,000 kilometers.
So still, it's 19-20 ka farak. It's not like it's a world-changing difference.
But it's a difference.
Yeah,
right?
it's a difference.
It shows commitment from, it's for somebody who's thinking about something, saying they are more sure. It leads into the idea that the cars are made better.
Right.
Imagine earlier when Maruti's warranty would have been 2 years, 60,000 kilometers or whatever.
Correct.
Whatever the number was.
Yeah.
Whereas Toyota's was even then 3 years, 1 lakh kilometers.
Got it.
You'll say they are more confident in their car.
Yeah.
So it's a very subtle but crucial piece of messaging that happens with the product.
Fair enough.
Right? So that's 3 reasons to go for the Toyota badge.
Okay.
3 reasons to go for the Suzuki badge.
Say to the camera na, properly. Like 3.
Okay, fine. 3 reasons to go for the Toyota. Right. Now 3 reasons to go for the Suzuki. Accessibility.
Much bigger network.
Much bigger network.
Yeah.
Right. Far easier to get to a service center. The experience in Maruti Suzuki's, from my personal experience, is not bad at all. They are very prompt in their follow-ups, what work they're doing, communication, all of that. A lot of transparency. They really care about getting a good rating. So it might be based on fear, but that ends up making things much easier for the customer.
Okay.
Right. So service is not an issue, and they do have a lot more service centers than a Toyota does.
Right.
Right. So that ease and access is one part of it.
Okay.
Second part of it is, and now in the Taisor's case, where it skews in the favor of the Fronx. It's that this car is entirely a Suzuki car.
Right.
There is no Toyota engine or any chassis or anything coming in. It's a Suzuki. So pricing advantage goes to the Suzuki car.
For ownership also.
So in terms of your purchase cost, again, the base engine, which is the 1.24 cylinder, it's about 30,000 rupees cheaper than the equivalent Taisor.
Right.
Okay. Again, this could be balanced out in the showroom very easily by if a dealer wanted to do it. It's not hard to do. But there's this slight difference.
Fair enough. But in service cost, will they cost roughly the same to service?
See, I have looked at it some time ago, and by and large, they were the same.
Got it. Okay.
I don't think there's a big enough difference in them for it to be you pick one over the other. The experience will be the thing that will...
Fair enough.
Whether it's the badge or the service center experience, that will be the bigger factor rather than the actual cost itself.
And will the fact that Toyota sells a much smaller number of cars be an advantage to somebody who has a Toyota dealership nearby because it's just less crowded, so you don't have to wait in queues and stuff versus Maruti?
See, Toyota, irrespective of the, having fewer dealerships or selling fewer cars in terms of total volume, the one thing that they ace is their service.
So they're unmatched on that front anyway.
They have a 1-hour service.
Okay.
If you want to get your Innova, Fortuner, whatever service, they have a 1-hour service slot.
You know how they do that, right? The Innova is so reliable, they just wash it and give it back to you. They're so thorough, it takes them an hour to wash the car.
They'll feel insulted about that. You mean we are cheating people?
It's called a joke, Toyota. It's not serious.
So anyway, I think, so that's second. So, and third, now in the Taisor's case versus the Fronx. The Fronx's advantage again is that variety of
variant options.
So the Fronx has, so again, if you are making a decision between these two, if you're looking to buy a CNG, you have 2 variants in the Fronx, the base and the one above base, which is Sigma and Delta. You have CNG options available on both. In the Taisor, it's only available on the base.
Got it.
Not even the mid. Also, this is now an important one, and I think this is where we get to the conversation of badge engineering. With the Fronx, you have this variant which Maruti also added later.
Okay.
The 1.2 goes up only till the Delta Plus. They created that Delta Plus specially for the Fronx. So they have a Delta Plus option, which is a 6 airbag version of the 1.2 engine equipped Fronx.
Got it.
This variant is missing on the Taisor.
Okay.
All the other variants line up except for the CNG wala. all the other variants are stacked exactly same feature set. Pricing is just that 22,000 rupees difference. When you go to the higher spec engine, the turbo petrol, they're priced on par.
Got it.
Now here on the outside, as we said, the review started and ended in the first 30 seconds, I think. It drives just like the Fronx. Sheet metal is just like the Fronx. The difference comes down to the grille, it being like this versus it being like this. And the LED DRLs are like the high riders, that bent line.
Got it.
Tail lamps are slightly different. That's it.
Okay.
In fact, between the Baleno and the Glanza had the slightest advantage over the Baleno because they went to lighter color interiors.
Right.
Which made it look more
airy and more
bright
spacious, or
and,
whatever.
it just felt different and nicer because of it. In this case, nothing.
It's the same.
It's exactly the same.
Okay.
It's literally Suzuki badges have been pulled out and Toyota badges have been put in.
Got it.
There's no difference whatsoever.
Understood.
And this, to me, feels like such a lost opportunity. Because we said it with the Glanza, they gave it a Toyota personality.
Right.
It looked a little bit different. It looked younger, and which is a strange thing to say. You're looking at a Toyota and saying that it looks younger than the other option that there is. The Taisor looks different. It's nice. I mean, whatever it is, I think it's okay, whatever it is. The shape itself is what people like about the Fronx, and I think that works for the Taisor as well.
Okay.
But as far as this feels like 30-year-old badge engineering ideas, where you literally just replace badges.
So it's a very low effort creation of a second.
And I think that entire belief that people have in Toyota that it will do better than Suzuki, I think there were ways that they could have done that quite easily. And the 6 airbags thing is the one that stares at you in the face.
Okay.
Right? That variant should have been there with the 1.2 on the Taisor as well. If nothing else, I would have expected, I keep expecting Toyota will take that one step, saying that we are the more premium brand. We will offer 6 airbags as standard. That is what the Toyota differentiation will be. But that's not happened, and this feels like it's taking a step in the other direction, and I can't see as to why that should be the case. So
interesting.
So as far as badge engineering goes, this is the lazy way of it.
Yeah.
And in the last few years, we've seen some fantastic examples of badge engineering.
Yeah.
If you see Hyundai Kia,
yeah.
If you see Renault Nissan,
correct.
They have created products with 2 different value sets altogether.
Correct.
Like, I can't think of recommending the Seltos to somebody who likes a Creta.
Correct. They don't feel similar to drive. The experience is different, etc.
The entire persona of the car is different. And you know, when it came out, the Creta and the Seltos, the current gen ones in the pre-facelift avatars, we had actually back then at Zig spent half a day just looking at everything on the car, trying to find one thing that was common. And we could find nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. So from the door handles to the
on the skin
buttons,
level, you don't feel like they're the same car.
Even the way they felt and drove back then, they were different kind of cars. So they were different. They were catering to 2 different sets of people in terms of what they looked like, what they felt. And that is the good way of doing it.
Yeah.
Because there is a differentiation. You're targeting more people. Whereas this just feels like, Toyota badge, if you want the prestige of the Toyota badge, go get that. And in some cases, that was the point, to go for Maruti, because people don't want to pick the Suzuki over the Toyota, especially for the Toyota vehicles, Marutis are more easily available. It's the case
availability
of the high cross.
thing. Yeah, with the high cross and the Invicto, you said.
Yeah, and I keep telling people, you want a high cross, buy the Invicto.
Correct.
It's so much easier to get. You'll get which variant you want far quicker.
Yeah.
Whereas with the high cross, the bookings for the top spec variants were closed for the longest time. They opened recently. Just like, at the time that we've been, of us talking about this, I think it would be less than a week. And I'm not sure whether they're still open.
Yeah.
That's the kind of situation it is. So availability is a big factor as well. So there are clear reasons why you could pick either of the badges.
Got it.
And practicality is the Suzuki stronghold. You lean towards it for that. And for Toyota, it's a little bit more of the aspiration that people get with it.
Got it. So for people who don't know these cars, let's quickly run through pros and cons for the Taisor with the 2-3 engines it has, the variants it has, so that we just close the picture of, okay, let's say you don't know the Baleno, you don't know the Fronx. What would the Taisor be like?
Correct. So the Taisor is your Glanza's SUV'd version.
Correct.
So if you don't know the Glanza, it's a large hatchback which is just at 4 meters long. So it's a big size hatch. It's a spacious car. It's a comfortable car. It's a practical one car that does it all for the family.
Got it.
It's reasonably well priced, especially right now when we've seen the new Swift's prices. So this feels all the more attractive, and Glanza and Baleno are twins. So this is the SUV version of that. And in that, what they've done is taken the Baleno, raised it by 20 millimeters, or taken the Glanza and raised it by 20 millimeters, given it slightly larger tires. They've changed the skin outside completely. So they've made it look more SUV by changing the lines on the car. But does it feel more SUV to me? No, not enough. Because when you're looking at the two cars side by side, or you're sitting inside the car, it's not like you're suddenly sitting higher up.
Yeah, I think this is what you mentioned when you did the Fronx versus the Sonnet story, and this was the previous generation Sonnet.
Yeah.
And you did say that, okay, the Sonnet does feel like an SUV.
Yeah.
And the Fronx simply does not, feels like a high hatch.
Yeah. So that's basically it. So it's a question of perception. So we spoke about this in Disconnect about SUVs versus sedans. So it's the same story. You've taken a hatchback, raised it up. You can't expect it to suddenly feel SUV.
Got it.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
And in that, it is a great practical car because it has all the strengths of the Baleno Glanza, which is spacious on the inside. It's comfortable, decent, a boot that's as good as the Brezza, if not better. So it's a practical car, but you have a little bit more ground clearance. You have a little bit more coolness in terms of the design, a little bit higher, so seating positions. So some people like that advantage. I think the beauty for me for these cars is with the 1.2 liter engines.
The naturally aspirated one.
Naturally aspirated, the more affordable engines. This is, so we've spoken about badge engineering. We're also going to talk about perception in this, because you will perceive that the turbo petrol is the better pick because it's the more expensive option. You will perceive that the turbo petrol with its 6-speed automatic, which is a torque converter, whereas the 1.2 liter engine gets an AMT, you will perceive that the more expensive option is the better option for everybody default.
And it has more power and torque also.
Yes, it has more power and torque. You will think that the turbo petrol is not good for the city, and you will think that a manual is not going to cut it. But all these things are perceptions, and that is one of the clear messages that we have for anybody considering either of these two cars. If you're thinking about the turbo petrol, first try the manual.
With the NA.
No, first
just try the.
If you want the turbo petrol, if that is something you want, drive it with the manual. It's not difficult at all to drive in the city. We didn't drive it in the Taisor. We've driven it in the Fronx. But they are the same car. There is no difference in terms of
You should have told me when you were driving the car. I would have given you printouts of the Toyota badges to stick in the appropriate places just to get a sense of the Taisor, man. This is not rocket science. If they could do it, we can do it.
We should have done that.
Yeah, because they do plastochrome. We do a printout. But hey.
So the turbo petrol engine, first surprise will be that it's easy to drive in the city. And that's a great thing if you want the turbo petrol. The automatic continues to be not up to the mark that I expect. And that's something I wanted to discuss here. A lot of you, when you're buying an automatic, are buying into the idea that it adds convenience, that it's going to be a sophisticated experience. And very often now in the budget, in this 10 to 15 lakh range, we're seeing cars that come with 6-speed torque converters, which are not up to the mark.
So convenience maybe, sophistication no.
Even convenience, like for my continuing issue with the Fronx and the Taisor, and it happened even with the Taisor, is that it's got the turbo petrol comes with a strong hybrid system, which means it cuts off the engine when you're coming to a stop.
Right.
And it does that very quickly, which is not a bad thing. So you've got your foot on the brake, you're rolling to a halt. That last meter or so, even before you've come to a stop, the engine will have had cut off.
Okay.
Which is fine. That's absolutely okay. But it's cut that engine off, and then when it has to turn back on, it just, the combination of the 3-cylinder engine and this gearbox not being the smoothest, you always get that start.
Okay.
So it doesn't feel smooth. It's not just a question of sophistication. It's about ease of use and finding comfort with the vehicle. If you're going to have to adjust to an automatic,
then the automatic needs to get better.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And in the same way, we look at the AMT and say it's not an automatic. I get it. It's an automated manual transmission.
Right.
But if you are willing to let a few things slide, not even a few things, one thing slide, that it's not going to be the paciest automatic. It's a convenient solution at an affordable price tag.
Got it.
And that used to be the issue, and which is why I will always say buy the 1.2 liter, because it's smoother. It's a little bit more efficient than the turbo petrol, a lot more efficient than the turbo petrol for city use.
Okay.
right? And it's smooth. It's a 4-cylinder. It's nice and responsive. Not as peppy as it used to be, because with progressive emission norms, it's all gotten dulled out. Like with the Baleno, it doesn't get a CVT anymore. It has an EMT. It's lost the mild hybrid system that it used to have. So those things have kind of taken a little bit out of it in terms of the richness of experience and how premium it felt. But this, if you're thinking about getting one and you want an automatic, it's good enough.
Got it. And
Don't
I think
beat yourself up about
and
it.
I think on the Fronx story, you said that the Fronx was a very practical, useful, usable car, but it was not the most exciting thing to drive. And you should have that expectation when you go into this.
Yeah, I think the simple thing about this is that this is stylish and I mean exciting on the outside. On the inside, it's not stylish,
Got it.
and it's certainly not exciting.
Understood.
And for me, the 1.2 is even better because it's a lighter combination, and in that you feel more. It feels more SUV than the turbo petrol with the 6-speed automatic, because in that the weight goes up
Understood.
and the suspension just doesn't feel as nice over bumpy roads.
So your recommendation, it would be the highest trim that you can get with a manual or the AMT on the 1.2 naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine.
Done.
Got it.
Done. You will miss out on some features, and if you're so keen about those features, then go for the Baleno or Glanza, which you will get for a lakh of rupees less for the same spec.
And it'll be this much low.
We were just messing around the other day with some sedans, and we had to go over the side of the road. It was filled with water. We didn't know what was there, and we said, let's do this. All we had to do was do it slowly, and they just went. We didn't scrape nothing, and it was trucks were avoiding those patches. And because in the spirit of testing, we said we must, so we did.
Got it.
And
okay, so comfortable cars in terms of suspension and space and seats, all three.
yeah, so all that. So I'm sorry, I'm glossing over this because the Baleno, we've spoken about this. Glanza.
I'm just worried about people who will.
No, of course.
The rest
of
will
course.
skip ahead, but a few people who may not have.
So this car, to spell it out, seats comfy, large, even comfortable for wider frames. Back seat, little bit low, but the amount of space on offer, even taller occupants can sit there comfortably, can stretch out because of the amount of room available.
And you already said the boot rivals almost the Brezza or is bigger than the Brezza, so we are good on that.
Yeah, it is. We've tried it out. We've tried it out with the Fronx. We've tried it out with the Glanza Baleno by stacking in luggage and comparing it. You can pack as much and still have a little bit of room remaining. The only inconvenience is basically have a high lip to load luggage into.
That's okay.
That's basically it. So we started right up top. I think that was a great place to start. How do you choose between the Fronx and the Taisor? And that to me is clear. What the options are between the two.
Okay, since this is a rebadged Maruti, we have to answer a safety question because there'll be the 5-star fans out there.
No ratings yet.
Is there a global reference that we can use?
Nothing for this as of now. There is for the current gen Baleno, for the current gen, therefore, and even the Fronx, not therefore, but even the Fronx and Taisor, there's nothing yet.
So the only thing we can say for sure is that they had to pass the 55 kmph test. That is the Indian standard mandated test. That's it.
Correct.
All right. So excellent.
Yeah, that they would be done with. Things that I don't like. They have that issue with the seatbelt reminder. They have the issue.
It's only for 90 seconds, bro.
Yeah. Actually, I just had an experience with the Basalt, and that also doesn't have load sensors for the rear seats. So you have to listen to the chime, and because of one thing, you have to listen to the chime. We'll talk about that in the Basalt.
Sure.
But you know what? They've done the chime so nicely. It doesn't irritate you. It's like, okay, it's there. I know I have to buckle up the seatbelt. It's not like, no, I want to turn around and buckle that thing right now. Nicely done. So the chime also makes a difference. So in this, the chime will get you to just say, I'm going to stop right now and fix that thing right now.
Yeah.
So that's, so you'll have to live with that.
Okay. When is the Brezza Toyota coming out? I'm going to call it the Bhaisar.
Bhaisar.
Well, Taisor and Bhaisar.
Bhaisar tha na. Bhaisar was there.
Which
when
one?
Toyota, it was the, what was it? Urban Cruiser. Oh, it was just the Toyota Urban Cruiser.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. There was
Why didn't they call it the Bhaisar?
But of the previous gen, when the new gen Brezza came,
that's what I'm talking about, the new gen Brezza.
I don't know.
See, I can't wait to see this shapeless new Brezza with a Toyota grill on it.
God knows, as far as I know, that is not in the plans right now.
And when will we get the Maruti Fortuner?
That is a lovely question. And I think that will happen with the new gen Fortuner.
Yeah.
Why not?
Because the way these names are going, like Romeo, I can't wait to see what they'll name it.
Okay, the fourth reason to go pick a Toyota. They're doing great wheels, man.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
doing
they are.
great wheels.
Yeah, they
Like
are.
the Rumion's wheels. I stopped and took a photo of the Rumion's wheels. I couldn't believe it on that. And those, I think, even the Taisor has a good set of wheels. But
No, I think they made a mistake, Karthik, on the Romeo.
I also
The
think
wheels are a mistake. If you have enough rum and onions together, you'll eventually end up with a wheel that nobody's expecting you to make.
I actually thought that somewhere somebody by mistake sent a batch of wheels that was meant to go to some other country. Accidentally, it came to India. They said, okay, fine, just put it, whichever's the next car, just put it on the Rumion if that's the one. Because those are cool wheels, man. And I just, for the life of me, can't imagine that somebody at Toyota said, no, let's give this boring MPV the coolest wheels we can find. I just can't believe that. So,
But
yeah.
good that they did.
Super glad. If that was intentional, superb.
If that was intentional, please do it again. So, shall I give you a quick summary there?
Quick, it'll be super quick. Let's go.
Today we're talking about the Toyota Taisor, and if you want to know what the Toyota Taisor is, just see our Fronx review. And every time you see a Maruti badge in that review, just see the Toyota badge in your head instead. You get the exact same picture. There are some variations in the variants. Some are missing from the Taisor, some are available on the Maruti, etc. It's a little arcane to go into, but fundamentally, with the 1.2 naturally aspirated engine, there is a 6 airbag version which should to us exist on the Taisor, but it doesn't, and to us that is the big gap. Karthik's overall recommendation is, if you're going to drive this car in the city a lot, do make sure that you eliminate the 4-cylinder 1.2 naturally aspirated engine with the manual gearbox and the AMT both as your working options before you say, no, I want the turbo petrol, because the cheaper cars are actually the better cars to drive.
And they're good on highways as well.
And they are good highway cars. And if you see the Fronx review, I think we have a Fronx review, we have the Fronx FAQs, and we have the Fronx versus Sonnet story. The Sonnet is the older Sonnet, not the new one. Even in those stories, what Karthik has been very clear about is, it's not the most exciting car to drive. This is a key message, but these are practical, useful, likable and comfortable cars that all members of your family will quite easily enjoy. They're spacious and all of those things, because basically the Baleno itself was almost exactly 4 meters. Then they raised it and built the Fronx, and then they changed the badges and built the Taisor. That's the whole picture. This is the quickest summary that I can do. If there's any more questions, you know what to do next.
You know what I thought yours quick summary was going to be? We're talking about the Toyota Taisor, and if you've seen a Fronx review, then you're done. Thank you so much for watching. I actually thought, because you had that pause at that time, I thought, okay, we're done here.
So I think there's a place for sarcasm, there's a place for brevity, and there is a place for trying to help people make this ridiculously easy decision saying, okay, which badge do you want really?
That's cool.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to hear about the Maruti Fortuner. I think the Suzuki Fortuner is going to be awesome.
Dude, people will
Can
cry.
they please call it Jimny Plus or something like that?
Do you know when the Innova came out, the High Cross, and then the Invicto came out? So when people realize it's the same car, and you know how crappy the plastics are in the High Cross and the Invicto, right? People said, because Maruti. Because they made it with Maruti. Maruti must have made the plastics.
Yeah.
So people, I mean, it's coming out of Toyota's factory. Toyota's made it, but it's Maruti. So it's damn funny how...
It's amazing how perception works.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, we are in this position where we know more, so I mean, it seems funny to us, but I mean, somebody sitting outside...
No, I'm also saying from the other side, which means if Maruti's brand teams and marketing teams and product teams were tuning into this conversation and paying attention to what customers are perceiving as what Maruti is, then you'd know that the time for crappy plastics, for example, should be behind Maruti by now. Like the safety conversation. We know Maruti is behind a little bit on that. Primarily because the platforms have a life cycle, and until the life cycle changes, Maruti can't really do much. It doesn't mean all of their cars are terrible, but it means the conversation is going really badly for Maruti. But if you're going to allow people to say it's a Maruti, so it must be like this, then when Maruti decides to do something more premium, more cool, etc., it's not going to make a dent. And it's not going to make a dent for years together, because this message has been cemented over years of non-intervention from the brand. Right? So Mr. Bhargav can give as many interviews as he wants, saying that we are going to focus on the customers who are moving up from two-wheelers and the smallest cars. And he's right. It is a very important requirement for this country. But this is a brand, and this brand has latitude. And if you don't manage latitude, you'll lose it.
I think the key problem is that they're trying to catch up rather than get ahead of the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And worse, if you don't manage this image actively, then you're going to fall further and further behind, which means the task of catching up becomes more and more critical.
And I'll give you an example, which for me is a very simple one, and something that they 100% need to fix ASAP. You may be offering 6 airbags on higher variants. You may be offering ESP on higher variants. But I think full stop. If you want people to be convinced, if you want to convince me, I want to see TC, traction control,
Yeah.
and I want to see tire pressure monitoring systems as standard.
Which you've said for many, many vehicles and many, many brands for a long time now.
Make rear wipers on a hatchback standard. You're the largest maker of hatchbacks in the country. Make that standard.
And wiping your rear just makes sense.
Oh God.
What?
Terrible. Okay, fine.
I'm talking about the fact that when you drive in the rains, the way the hatchback's tails are, the splatter comes a lot. And that's the format where the windscreen gets blocked very, very quickly. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know, dirty minds we've got.
It is dirty. I mean, you go out into Mumbai in a hatchback today, you can't go 500 meters before the thing is, and you have to wipe your rear.
Correct. Well praised. Well praised. Before I get sidetracked, this was about Suzuki and Maruti with Toyota as well. As much as people are willing to buy a Toyota today, and like a High Cross and a Fortuner, it's not for the experience that they're offering inside the cabin.
No.
Why does that trade-off have to happen? I don't understand. It's almost like, yeah, we built a great machine, now the rest of it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And why?
No, and at the Fortuner's price, for example, the interior, I mean, honestly, the only word that comes to my head when I see it is it does not compute. I mean, if I were to have 50 lakh rupees to spend on an SUV today the size of a Fortuner, I would have worked very hard to get to that money.
I read a comment the other day, somebody said, why do people hate Fortuners so much? I said, I don't know why people hate Fortuners, and there is a bunch, because I think it's the way people who own Fortuners, how they drive and how they lord it over everybody. Sure. I think that's the reason why people hate Fortuners. But the reason why anybody who's thinking about cars clearly will not like the Fortuner is that I'm spending twice of an Innova, and my experience is not actually better.
No. It's not.
If unless and until I one day decide that I'm going to go way off the road, it's not actually better. You didn't get better ride comfort. You didn't get better space. The cabin actually felt so much more couped than the Innova.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand for the longest time. I still don't understand. But it's the prestige angle of the Fortuner that works, I mean, tremendously.
Yeah.
And which is all about.
No, and I had the same reaction when I saw the Hilux interior for the first time. I was like, I get the legend of the Hilux, and I get why it is such a valued car all over the earth by all kinds of people, not just the guys who are on the right side of the political situation. But when you see the interior of a Hilux, it does not compute. That does not look like a 50 lakh rupee car.
I really want to spend time with the Hilux. That's still not happened. When it does, we'll of course talk about it. But yeah, that's pending.
Fair enough. Is there anything else?
In the Hilux space, for me, the V-Cross sets a very high benchmark. So I want to see how this goes.
Yeah, and the V-Cross's price benchmark just keeps going up, because there was a time when the V-Cross was just like, it makes so much sense at this price, and then suddenly it just jumped.
And you know what's happened with the Hilux as well, right?
They're discounting it down to the V-Cross?
Massively.
No, they're officially not. I read the press release.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was press release saying not at all. There is no discount available on the.
I know otherwise.
Yeah, so the person who made me aware of the press release was calling to tell me that right after that the dealer called and said, "Don't believe the press release. We have cars we are trying to get rid of. Please come."
Yeah, because I've seen some new ones in our society, and I'm like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
I found out, like, no, of course, they're discounted.
Yeah. So it's a high lux with a low lux price.
Acha, good combo.
Acha. It's how it should happen.
Anyways, from my side, that's it. I mean, keep it simple. I think when you're choosing your cars as far as possible, and especially in the case of the Taisor or the Fronx.
All right. That's what we wanted to discuss about the Toyota Taisor. Again, if you haven't seen our Fronx stories, please go see them. They will give you all the information you need on the Taisor, except for the front grille design, except for the badges all over the car. The rest of it is exactly the same, no difference at all. If there's any more questions that you think we should have answered and we haven't, just leave us a comment. We'll get right on it. And we'll see you soon on another episode of MotorInc First. Thank you so much for watching.